Good morning, Keller Williams. Nothing says summer like Springsteen. And if you look at the weather we have for this coming week, it is summer. It's officially here by all weather related and astrological related terms. Summer has arrived. Excited for our sales meeting today. Looking forward to a conversation with Larry Wanke about winning the listing, which is ever important in our industry and especially in the market today. We're going to talk a little bit more about the market, its shift, what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're hearing, and what we're thinking. And I want you to know that no matter what happens in real estate, listings are always going to be the highest value target you can go after. So as we start every week, we're going to talk a little bit about our belief system and the opportunity for us to explore one of these a little bit each week. So everybody's favorite, the most common, the one you hear the most around the office and in conversation is the win-win or no deal. And I think it's very fitting as we think about listings. As you think about, there was a moment in the market where it seemed like the FSBOs were going to be a really effective way for clients to move their property, to sell their home, to manage that asset. And really at the root of the listing conversation is this idea of a win-win or no deal. It's an opportunity for you as an agent to earn a living and also be a really good steward of somebody's largest financial asset. It's a win for the person selling because they are going to get better service, stronger negotiation, stronger support, and as the data shows, more money. They're going to net more money as a result of working with an agent. And then the wins go all the way around to the people on the other side of the transaction, the buyers and their agents, as they're going to get best foot forward and the best partner in a transaction in you. So listings Mo Anderson might say that if you're not taking listings, you're not in culture, all right? Because we're not creating win-wins. And so the opportunity for us to live this belief system, live these values is going to come through taking more listings, which Larry's going to help us do here in a bit. If we look at our 12 tactics in a shift, we are revisiting these one by one because we are in a shift. If anyone is sick of hearing me say that, that's good. That means we're getting somewhere. Repetition leads to recognition. And the idea that we are in a shift and we need to start acting like we're in a shift because it's happening now and it's going to show up in the fall. So we need to start thinking about how we navigate this. So we already said we're going to get real, get right, get our mindset and our action aligned to the fact that there's a shift. Second, we're going to remargin our business by doing some expense management. We always want to be doing that. I suggest quarterly you reevaluate all expenses, all return on investment, both personal and professional. If you have not logged into Disney Plus in 90 days, it's probably time to cancel the subscription. And then finally, or not finally, but third in this week's is do more with less, leverage. Hate to just really strike the theme hard, but listings are a great piece of leverage. The National Association of Realtors says that the average real estate transaction takes 50 hours to complete. There's 50 hours of work in the average real estate transaction. And the disparity between a listing, the listing side of a transaction, and the buyer side of the transaction are pretty substantial. So listings are a great way to leverage your business, leverage out your business, because everyone else is selling the property, right? There is no running the buyer for your listing. There is no getting pre-approved for your listing. There is no none of the things that really create a lot of the time and energy drain from the buy side. Those don't exist on the listing side. So a great way to leverage is to focus on listings during a shift. The second thing that you'll have the opportunity to do, since you've remargined your business, is think about where you're investing. Of those 50 hours that exist in a real estate transaction, only 10 hours, according to the National Association of Realtors, according to the organization who exists to promote and support realtors, they say of those 50 hours, only 10 actually need to be done by a licensed real estate agent. And so there are massive opportunities for leverage if you're dialed in on what activities earn you the most income, which many of you will be disappointed to learn that is lead generation. And so if you are able to take the time that you were doing paperwork, the time you were doing showing the least motivated buyers in your pool, anything that is not directly bringing you business that you can capitalize on immediately, is going to be something that you should consider leveraging out. Showing assistance, transaction management, listing management, database management. These are all places where you could potentially invest in the opportunity to spend more time lead generating, which is the highest dollar activity that any of us can do in real estate. All right. So that is something to consider as we move through the shift. Before we dive into everything that we have upcoming, want to give a shout out to everyone who attended, volunteered, supported, showed up, bought some local goods, and generally just hung out with us at the Juneteenth event on Sunday. It was a lot of fun. We had a great turnout. It was a beautiful day for it, a really wonderful and really fun event. So thank you to our Black Realtor Network for their sponsorship of that event. And thank you to everybody who made the time and made it out and made it fun. Welcome to all of our new agents. All these folks either moved their business or started their business with Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan in the month of May. So we're very excited for all of them to get underway, for all of them to transition and take off for their real estate career. Sorry, Larry Wanke just poked his head into my office. A little surprise live visit here. So we'll get to you, sir, and at the top of the hour. Oh, this is perfect. This is perfect. And then wanted to give a special shout out to all these folks who are celebrating their first anniversary with Keller Williams. All these folks completed their first lap around the sun with KW and are barreling towards a very successful second year in business with us. And then if you opened up Facebook at any time in the last 4 or 5 days, you probably saw that a lot of folks were posting a lot about awards that had recently been doled out in the real estate ecosystem. And so Cleveland Magazine announced their top realtors or top real estate agents in Northeast Ohio. I believe the final count for KW was 59 agents or teams were recognized as top real estate agents in Northeast Ohio. So a larger number than I believe we've ever seen. We could not find anyone who had more as an office. And so a really terrific accomplishment. Congratulations to all these individuals on huge success, and also for anybody who is in a position where you're like, man, I really I want my name up there in lights someday. I want to stress that our organization, our culture, our company is committed to create a culture of mentorship. And so I promise you that if you reach out to anybody on this list or any other list that you're going to see in a minute, they would be more than happy to help you, have a cup of coffee with you, support you, tell you their story. So please take advantage of that. We are inside of an organization that has a higher density of talent than any other that I've ever been a part of, or that I think, and I think a lot of people would echo that sentiment. And so please take advantage of it. In addition to Cleveland Magazine's top realtors, Real Trends released America's Best, which are the top realtors and teams throughout the country, state by state, and throughout the country. So all of these teams that you see on the big board here were recognized as top teams in Ohio. Please note that our special guest today, Larry Wanke and the Larry Wanke Group, made that list. And so no doubt that what he's going to share is going to be really impactful. And then the young team, our very own young team, recognized as the number 18 in the entire country by units amongst large teams. So, they have individual agents, small teams, medium teams, large teams, and mega teams. And so out of the large teams that exist in the United States, the young team is the 18th in unit count. And then finally, top individual agents in the state of Ohio, Mike Arco, Carol Joyner, Eric Akbar, all recognized as top individual agents in the state of Ohio. Huge accomplishment, tons of great success walking through the halls here at Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan. And the way that they got to where they are is they attended some trainings, right? Not unlike the one we're going to have today, in addition to some others. So don't forget, this afternoon at 1 o'clock, grab a couple hours of CE and learn about a really, really great opportunity for your clients, which is the 1031 exchange. You've heard me talk a lot about this. Log on, leave your camera on, engage, get 2 hours of CE, and then hit up your database with an opportunity of everything you learn about 1031 exchanges. Tomorrow morning, Jeff Glover, a Midwestern realtor who is undoubtedly at the top of what's going on in Michigan from Real Trends, and likely in the Real Trends 1000. Jeff's team sells around 1,000 units a year. And so he's got some really, really good tactics for securing more sellers this summer. Tomorrow morning, I'm sure that Jeff sent you some text messages and emails about it. We're going to drop the link in the chat for you to go grab tickets if you're interested in that opportunity. And then Thursday, calling all cappers, our capper happy hour is this Thursday, 4 p.m. That's going to be at All Saints Public House in the Detroit Shoreway. So great opportunity to get together. Anybody who has capped in the last 12 months is welcome, and will be treated by our friends at Cross Country Mortgage to a real great time. Always a lot of fun. Looks like we are going to have some absolutely divine weather, and we'll be able to have a real big time that afternoon. Our next career night is Monday, so all of you river folks or anyone who knows somebody on the west side who is currently enrolled in real estate classes, currently a licensed realtor that whose business has not taken flight, someone who's interested in a career in real estate, or somebody who's interested in a career change. This is a great opportunity for anybody on the real estate spectrum to get in the room, meet some other agents, meet some other folks in the same position as them, hear about a career in real estate, and hear about the opportunities that are available at Keller Williams Greater Metropolitan. And then our final training of the month will be on June 29th. Eddie Donnelly will be taking us through the 6 personal perspectives, some of the most powerful mindset frameworks available in the industry, created and refined by Gary Keller. Eddie's a fantastic teacher. This is a fantastic subject. It is a fantastic way to reset your mindset at the midpoint of the year. Make no mistake, July 1st marks halfway through the year. And so take advantage of this opportunity, 11 a.m. on June 29th in the Pepper Pike office. Reverse Book Club continues next Friday. Matt Chase talking about the War of Art. And then we move towards our arguably one of our largest, if not our largest, training events of the year. We will welcome Maurice Claret as our keynote speaker for Summer Masterminds and feature half a dozen high impact, immediate implementation panels for you with top agents from throughout our company. This is a can't miss. Guys, I want to be real clear. Get your tickets now. Get a ticket now, because as we move through the end of June and into July, we will be releasing this opportunity to the public. We will be letting other people in our boards and in the MLS know about this opportunity. We want you as KW agents to be able to take advantage of this opportunity. So please grab your ticket now, lock it up. That way, when we sell out, you're on the inside, not the outside. And then finally, mark your calendars for our company-wide summer cookout. It is Hawaiian themed. It will be a potluck. If you make a great veggie pizza, a great bean dip, or can flip a mean burger, we're going to need you there. It's a lot of fun. It's fun for the whole family. Please bring your partners, your spouses, your kiddos, your friends, your neighbors, your clients, whomever you want. Always, everybody's welcome. It's a great time. It's a lot of fun. And if it's anything like last year, it's a can't miss opportunity. All righty. I'm going to throw it over to our friends at Cross Country Mortgage and let Sean and Don and Chris and Carmen and everyone else on the crew talk a little bit about what's going on. And Sean, how'd I do? How'd I do on time, man?
Perfect. You're excellent. Nice job.
Excellent.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So just want to connect. Don's actually out this morning under the weather, I believe. So just to touch on a few things. So since we spoke last Tuesday, we had mentioned the Federal Reserve Board meeting was going to conclude on Wednesday at 2:15. And as expected, or I should say, as we chatted about, 0.75% was the rate bump. And just to, again, echo what we had chatted last Tuesday, the forecast up until the previous week was that they're going to move rates 0.5%. So 4 days before, the Fed sneakily put out like an unofficial sort of release, leak, so to speak, to kind of say, hey, 3/4 might be it. Excuse me, and markets reacted from that. So I mentioned the meeting last week that the 30-year, as of last Tuesday, the average was 6.18%. That was on kind of an A+ qualified buyer. Market's still settling in a little bit, so kind of day to day, we're seeing maybe just a fraction above, just a fraction below. We had our cross-country sales rally. We had 1,500 sales of the sales team out in Las Vegas for a conference last week, and it was absolutely amazing. The timing of this couldn't be better. It was like our own sort of mini family reunion. But across the board, the sentiment was the same. It's sort of, hey, we sold houses when they were 6%, not a while back. Or I should say, we did mortgages and you all sold houses. So we're just rolling with the shift, and we're having much deeper conversations as as a salesperson, so to speak, as a loan officer, not just to say, hey, here's the rate. Sorry, you're stuck with it. We're getting a bit more deeper, as we usually do as a consultant, talking about power of points, adjustable rate mortgages, what a payment looks like today, what it might look like 2 years from now if interest rates improve. So there's quite a bit more to it. And we're just, looking to run with that information and educate the buyer in all examples. So, Chris, anything you would add today?
No, I think you covered it all. But people still feel motivated. Everyone I'm talking to, they're kind of just, grinning through the higher interest rates, and everyone seems to, want to wrap things up with a talk about refinancing, just around the corner. So from what I can tell, they're still motivated, and, I think we're going to bear through this just fine. So.
And one little tidbit for when you're at 6%, and sometimes we're a little bit below, sometimes someone's going to be a little bit above. This is nice, easy math here. $1,000 mortgage is $6 per month on a 30-year loan. So in a $100,000 loan, that's $600, and a $200,000 loan, it's $1,200. So the 6% mark is where it's a nice little 6 for 1, if that makes sense. That's all we got.
I love that. And Chris, I don't want to lose the thread on the point that you made, which is, there will always be buyers and sellers. There will always be. We talk about this all the time. Life events drive real estate events. And it's the agents who are in relationship with the most amount of people and are able to identify the motivated. That's tactic number 4 in the shift. Find the motivated, right? If you have a pipeline of 10 buyers, they are not all equally motivated. If they are, congratulations, you'll have 10 sales or 0 sales, right? But there are folks who need to buy a house, and there are folks who would like to buy a house. When we start to lean into the shift, when you start to see interest rates move, it's important that we get really clear with our clients about which one they are, because showing somebody properties in Lakewood and Twinsburg in the same day when they're just thinking they might want to move is not the best use of your time, energy, and resources in a shift. So thank you for that. And thank you, Sean, as always, and good luck in the raffle. If you don't know, Michigan Ohio State tickets go on sale in about 3 minutes, and so Sean needed to be done by 10 a.m. And Jade now with Greater Metropolitan Title and Escrow. How are you this morning?
I'm good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So as you guys know, the language in your guys' contract has changed a little bit. And specifically today, I want to talk about instead of closing and possession, the term of disbursement. So as you guys, many of you know, title companies today are not going down to the courthouse twice a day to record documents. They are now, as soon as we press that button that we are dispersed, the file is considered closed, and your buyers can move into the house. With that language change, I am talking to you guys today about gap coverage. So that is kind of how we get away with not recording the deed at the county and closing the deal at the same time. The gap coverage will allow the insurer, our underwriters, to ensure that no lien will be filed on the property between the time that we disperse and the time that the documents are actually recorded. So if you guys have any pushback on that, let the other agents know. Our title company does use gap coverage. And if they have any other questions or issues about that, please give them mine or Tiffany's phone number, and we will be more than happy to deal with it.
I love that. That's a great reminder. It's a question that will come up. And if you can answer it well, you'll put your clients' hearts and minds at ease. And if you can't, then just make sure you have Tiffany or Jade on speed dial. All right. And then no Gina, no Jess this week. So we are going to be able to dive right into our feature conversation for today. So allow me to bring to the stage here and spotlight for you all Mr. Larry, can't do this. There we go. Mr. Larry Wanke. Larry, how you doing this morning, sir?
Well, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Look at this, live and in person. God, a couple guys like us, we might need a bigger screen.
Yeah. Oh, man.
How you doing?
I'm well.
Excellent. Now you are you're looking a little sun-kissed here. You're just back from a vacation, is that right?
We did. We were on a cruise. We went to Cozumel, Central America, and then we went to New Orleans for a couple days.
All right.
Great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let it be known that if you take a lot of listings, you can leverage those and go on vacations. How many buyers agents would love to be able to do that, right?
Stressful though. Stressful before you go, you got to prep, and stressful when you get back.
That's right. That's right. Well, before we dive in, we've got a great conversation planned about listings today, and we're gonna see where it takes us. But before we dive in, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, how you got into real estate, what it's been like since you've been there, and anything else we need to know.
Sure. I've been in the business for, probably just short of 25 years. I actually started out early to facilitate an investment business that I started. At the height, I owned and operated, I want to say 38 properties, probably trying to do 2 to 5 flips a year. And that was my primary focus. And what I did is I was using several agents at that time. And then I said, why am I using other agents? I'm doing all my own research. I'm practically negotiating these things. Let me get my license. So that was why I started. And most of my early career was done in that fashion. I would say about 5 years ago, I said, well, I transitioned out of that business. I'm not going to, bore you with all the details, but I sold my last one, gosh, maybe 6 years ago. And I said, you know what? I'd rather get into the sales, full time. I want to attack this process. I've made a lot of contacts over the years. So I felt like, hey, I enjoyed sales far more than I enjoyed managing property.
Yeah.
I think my biggest mistake in that was I didn't leverage myself. I was doing everything. I was working 75 hours a week. It was very lucrative at times. Then we ran into 2008, and that was a different animal that aged me about 20. I'm 30 years old, and I look like I'm 60. That was just a challenging time on so many different levels. But nonetheless, transitioned out and then attacked this process as an agent probably within the last 5 years.
All right.
And then started a small team maybe 2 years ago. And I love it. I love sales. I love helping people. I think with the experience that I have, I can bring a lot to the table for clients, and I enjoy that process.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So just a couple quick takeaways to pull out. If you or someone is managing a lot of properties, help them by leveraging Greater Metropolitan Management right at your fingertips. A great way to not work 75 hours a week on your properties. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about listings. So you're a very strong listing agent. You take this very seriously. You focus on it. So when it comes to the listing, I want to break it down in 3 phases for winning. You're gonna you got to prep for it. You got to get familiar with the property, and then you got to overcome objections.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the preparation piece. How are you preparing for a listing appointment? And if it's different based on I know these people, I've been in their house, or this is a cold call, or this was referral, how are you approaching that?
Good point too, from the standpoint of, a lot of now when I get a referral, so I have some type of interaction with the people ahead of time, or friends with friends. So that's a little bit different, but I think that, boiling it down to the fundamentals of it, no matter what you do, you want to get a little bit of familiarity with whom you are sitting down with. Okay. A lot of that takes place during your preemptive phone call when you had that first call to set up the appointment. So I try to get as much information during that call as possible. It's critical later on. That would include, hey, tell me a little bit about the family. What are your goals? That kind of thing. You'll get so much information from that. You also want to determine, by the way, what they think the value of the house is. Okay. And that's a little bit of a dance sometimes, but it'll be helpful later on, but nonetheless. So, and then also that'll entail maybe Googling them, jumping on Facebook, just to get an idea, hey, look at their photos. Are you creeping? Maybe my daughter would say I would be, but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to do is familiarize myself with whom I'm going to be sitting with. Okay. And to do that, hey, now I can see some of their interests. Do they like rock music? Are they sports fans? Hey, do we have any commonalities? Something that I could possibly bring up at some point during the appointment, because at the end of the day, with a listing, you're trying to build rapport. You want to build a relationship in a very, very short period of time. Any way you could accomplish that is really important. So that's one of the ways I do it. And obviously there's a lot of ways. And there's people, all of you are more tech savvy than I am. So I do it very very basic. But again, I just want a little bit of knowledge. Then look, the more you list, the more you get entrenched with this business, you're going to find yourself sitting in households that in communities that you're not familiar with. Could be far east, west, south, wherever it is. So you also have to do a little research on the areas, the neighborhood. Hey, do they have a festival coming up? Are they putting in a new set of townhouses? Whatever it may be. So you want to get some familiarity with that, and it takes some time. You got to do a little research with that, and then you throw yourself into the house itself. Try to get your background. What's the sales history on it? What's the tax value? What does Zillow say it's worth? I know everyone's like, oh, Zillow's, they are bad, but the public uses it. The sellers knows it, so you better at least be able to use that as a talking point. Zillow, Realtor.com, Realist. Then I jump into the comparables, and that can be challenging, especially when you're in locales that maybe you're not as familiar with, or there's not an abundance of comparables.
Right.
That's an art. That is not a science. That's an art. And I'm not going to say I've mastered it, but boy, I put a lot of time into it, because at the end of the day now, unlike before, there was a time when you could sit down on a listing appointment and you could pretty much say, here's my recommendation, 250,000. Okay. Because the numbers spoke it, the market spoke it, everything. Now I provide a range. Okay. Because this is the most subjective market I've ever seen from a pricing standpoint. We are seeing just ludicrous numbers. Now they're coming down a bit. Then they go. It's just so unique that at the end of the day, you have to kind of find that space and then work to the right place. But that entails a lot of just research with the comparables and things of that nature. You really do want to walk into a house very prepared on that, from that standpoint.
Yeah, so I want to unpack some of that, because there's a few things that I heard you say that are you must do this, right? And I'm imagining if somebody called you and wanted you to come on a listing appointment this afternoon, you might not do that, right? Because that might not necessarily serve you to be prepared.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we're not walking in if we haven't had that preemptive conversation to learn as much as we can and get a sense of who they are, why they're moving, what their motivation is, right? And then what they think the home might be worth.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to spend time, energy, and resources if we don't understand the neighborhood or the community as to like, okay, what are my comps? What's happening out there?
Sure.
What just happened? Is there anything on that street? Is there anything on that block?
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything like that?
Mhm.
So that we're coming in with as much knowledge about them and about the box as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just ballpark, like how much time between preparing for that phone call, having that phone call, looking at comps, looking in the community, doing a drive-by maybe, how much time are you spending to prepare for an average listing appointment?
It really depends.
Yeah.
There's going to be some areas obviously that I'm super familiar with, so that's obviously
Yeah.
going to limit your time input. But
Yeah.
if we're going to go average, I already have kind of my bullet points for my phone call, so that's fairly simple. But that that could be anywhere from 5 minutes to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I could really take on a life of its own sometimes.
Mhm.
But prep wise, getting a backdrop on the person, getting a backdrop on the area, and then really diving into the comps, probably for me, and I may be slow, really, because I'm sure everyone's more tech savvy than I, so it always takes me a little bit longer. But I would say it could be as much as from 2 hours to it could be 3 hours, 4 hours.
Yeah.
It really could be, depending on the property, depending on the circumstance. Because remember, end of the day, listings are our goal. They're our lifeblood. And you want to get really good at it. And in order to do that, you better be prepared walking in the door.
Yeah.
So whatever it takes for me to get comfortable, and when I say average, let's say 2 hours, but I've spent 5, 6 hours.
Yeah.
If I felt like, oh boy, this is one that's going to entail some additional kind of like.
Yeah, or you got something like a pool,
Sure,
or some like,
sure.
a big deck off the back. What's that worth? Who knows, right?
You got it. Oh yeah, those are challenges. When
Yeah.
people say, "Hey, what does a pool give you?" That's so subjective. You know what I mean? But two, when you start going out east and there's no comps and the house is unique and they've got a carriage house and this and that really. That can be challenging, for anybody. You know, doesn't matter if you do 1 million listings a year or 10. It's hard, but you got to throw yourself into it.
Yeah, and so the takeaway there is, if one of our best is investing up to 5 hours, I think, we do a disservice to ourselves or to our clients if we're not doing the same thing. All right, so let's talk. So you've had a great pre-call. You've got some information. You've done your research. You knock on the door. All right. What's the strategy as soon as you're inside of the door? Are you saying, hey, let's sit down and let's catch up a bit, or are you going right into show me the home?
Sure. I'll walk in, your hellos and how are you? Oh God, so thanks so much for the opportunity to be with you. And then I'll ultimately say, hey, where'd you like to sit? Where can I put my stuff down?
Yeah.
And if they want to do it in some locale that's kind of maybe uncomfortable, or there's a TV in the back or there's noise, I'll try to redirect. Hey, can we sit in the dining room? Try to get somewhere where it's comfortable. Try to get somewhere where you're going to be able to be at the head of the table, or at least in a position. I don't even mind if they're in a couch down there and I'm in a chair above them because I'm presenting. But nonetheless, you want to find an area. I do think there's a strategy to it. find an area that you're going to be comfortable with, somewhere that they're typically going to be comfortable with. Often that's the kitchen, the dining room, or whatever the case is. So I'll put that down, and then I'll say, hey, who wants to give me the tour? And if you read, there's so much information about how to do a listing appointment. It's just, you can get analysis paralysis. The book will say, do it yourself. That way you can take your time to set. I completely disagree with that. I get another 10, 15 minutes with one of, the husband, the wife, or whomever it is, to kind of hear them say things, listen to what they find to be, aspects of their house that they really like. It's an opportunity to get to know them a little bit more as I'm familiarizing myself with the house. So I like to get a tour, then come back, sit down, and the first thing you're going to do is find something about the house that you like. Hey, you know what? Gosh, what a great floor plan. I'll tell you, your color scheme brings so much warmth. I love, something of that nature, just a little bit of a compliment before we start getting into the, the nuts and bolts of things.
Yeah. So, and there's, everything's data, right? Everything's information. So whether the husband or the wife, they get, who gives you the tour, whether they both give you the tour, like, are you already starting to consume a little bit on who's the decision maker, who's the driver in this? So you've already got the motivation. Now you've seen a little bit more color.
Sure, you're going to get that type of information without question, and you're going to kind of level that out as you're going. But keep something in mind too: when you're sitting down with a husband and a wife, one of them is more than likely going to be the dominant kind of party in that process. They're going to talk the most, have the most questions. Be very careful at just simply, tuning into that. Because that wife or that husband, they may be, the quiet decision maker in this process. So you want to be very, very considerate of both parties. So if I'm talking, I'm looking at the husband, I'm looking at the wife, I'm spending time going back and forth. That's important from a rapport building standpoint, because believe you me, if you spend all your time on the husband, when you walk out the door, that wife says, you know what? I was like, I wasn't even here. I've had that happen with people in my house. They're pitching us on windows or roofs, and they look at me as the decision maker. So they're just talking to me. Well, guess what? The decision maker was sitting right here, and you blew it. And I'll tell you what, if you've offended her or made her uncomfortable, or, make her feel that she wasn't important in this process, you're not putting my windows in. You know what I mean? So I'm super conscientious of that. I think it's important. So yes, absolutely. There's going to be a decision maker, but just be careful, not to hone into whomever you determine as the decision maker exclusively.
And as a quick aside, I've heard some horror stories about folks who get a little bit too heavy on the rapport building, and they want to talk about fishing and golf or rock music, and then when it comes time, they forget to talk about the house or about their marketing scheme or whatever. And
it's so true. And I've fallen prey to that.
Yeah.
Once in a while you'll have some connection, maybe with the husband or the wife. There's an athletic background or some connection. You're like, oh, and you're spending all your time making a friend, which is delightful, but most of us have enough friends. So what we really want to do is build that rapport, but also stay on point. I think the most important thing from the standpoint of being able to do that is in your preparation up front. You've got your presentation. Okay. Yeah. Every listing appointment is going to take on a life of its own. Okay. I don't think I have done a listing appointment that was just A to Z, hit all my points, and did it in the last 10 years. Okay. Because certain things are going to be more important to certain people. They're going to have questions. You're going to go off on a tangent. So we also have to get kind of flexible with that process, But remember, rapport building is huge, but you also have to direct the conversation. You have to stay on the points that are most important. And what is that? Securing their listing. You're building their trust. That friendship is great, but at the end of the day, they also have to see your value. What are you bringing? How well have you prepared? How do you know my market? How are you going to market me? How are you going to, what's my value? All those things you have to spend time with. I'll also say this though. I've been in listing appointments where you could literally go off script because you identify very quickly that they don't care about any of this. This is the most important thing, Yeah. So that listing appointment that could have taken 2 hours might take a half an hour. And I've made a mistake of trying to stick to my points before, when all I really had to do was, be specific about what they wanted. So again, that's kind of a field.
Yeah. And I think there's also probably something to just asking the question like, hey guys, I have a full presentation. Is there anything that you want me to be sure that I cover? Anything you want me to be sure that I hit or that spend more time on? And they'll say, how quickly can you sell it?
Well
Right.
said. And
Yeah.
that's something that I'll bring in very early.
Yeah.
And that is like, look, this process is about you guys. You're the captains of this ship. I'm just the cruise director. What is the most important aspects of this process for you? And you'll get really good information really, really quickly. I do that every time I sit down with somebody.
Yeah.
Now you're still going to stick to your presentation because again, there's a lot of important information in that you want to convey. But to your point, if there's something that's super important, you want to make sure you spend a lot of time with that.
Yeah. So we hear this term, and there's folks on the call who have maybe never been on a listing appointment. So they hear this thing, listing presentation, right? Is this a hard copy thing you're sliding across the table, or are you throwing it up on the iPad? Is it a PowerPoint presentation? What life is this taking on?
I think there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat.
Yeah.
I think it's a comfort level. I think someone who pulls out a laptop and does a presentation, if that's what they're most comfortable with, is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I do not do that. I kind of go off my own script that I have notes on, okay? And then I also bring with me kind of an overview of the process, my background, which I also, by the way, already forwarded them ahead of time. But my background, my marketing approach, some testimonials, favorable testimonials, and then an overview of the process. So I'm going to leave that with them after, but I want to run this script. So I find if you put something in front of them that they're going to read and they're not going to listen to you. So I want to engage. Like even when I pull out my numbers, never pull out your CMA ahead of time and start your presentation. They will not listen to one thing you said or hey there, oh gosh, I thought our neighbor sold for more than that. Damn it.
Yeah.
Their mindset is completely on those numbers. So don't pull that out until you're ready to talk about it.
All right. So in the listing presentation, you're talking about you're gonna cover what's most important to them. You're gonna cover some testimonials. You're gonna talk about your process. What are some of those elements? You talk marketing, pricing strategy. What's in there?
Sure. I do it in sections. The first one is kind of the introductory thing of, hey, did you get a chance to review the info I sent you? If not, I'll go over my background briefly. Then I say, hey, this process is about you. Let's talk a little bit about your goals. So we'll do that. I want to see what their transition plan is. That's really important. You can't be remiss with that because some people, they just assume that you understand their situation. Well, you don't. I mean, do they have a house? Are they going to buy? Do they have to buy one first? Are they going to rent? Are they moving out of town? A lot of that was garnered from that original listing call, but things change. So I'll say, hey, has anything changed? Blah, 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 and then kind of walk me through your goals, your transition, because at that point, things may change if, hey, we want to buy first. That may change everything,
Right.
Okay? So I want to get that. Then I go into a brief background again about myself. My mission statement jumps in there like, hey, my job is simple. I'm here to dot your I's, cross your T's, and go to battle for your interests. Nobody's going to outwork me or compete more diligently on your behalf than I am. I fit that in somewhere. Okay. Then I start going into our marketing. I'll do that first. And then I go into Keller Williams. I spend a lot of time with Keller Williams because remember, guys, #1 broker in the MLS. Okay. That's huge. And I'll say, I've aligned myself with the #1 brokerage. That's like having 445 associates that I can strategize with, talk with, bounce ideas off, learn from. That's big. And then I'll say, hey, most by sales volume, both by not units, all that. So I go through that. Then I'll hit our marketing overview. And then I go into the numbers. And then the last section, if you will, is kind of the closing of the whole thing.
Excellent. So and I want to go back because I missed it the first time. You're sending like a pre-read ahead of time, right? And have you always done that? Was that something you picked up along the way where you're like, oh, I can get a little bit more of relationship ahead of time if I do this?
That's a great question. I haven't always done that for sure. I don't remember where I picked that up from.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it for probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. A lot of people will literally read every page.
Yeah.
And there's others that won't read it at all. But what I like to do is give them the ability to have that because, I want to sell myself, but I don't want to spend. I don't think anybody wants you to sit in front of them and tell them how great you are. Okay. You want them to know you're good. Okay. You want to hit on a couple things, your accolades, this, your background, but they don't want you to just tell an hour of how many houses I saw. They don't want to hear that. Okay. So that package that I'm sending them up front has a lot of that information in there. I was Mr. Irrelevant 1991. That's the last player selected in the NFL draft. I can't tell you how many times a husband before that, oh, dude, I didn't know that. That was great. So that's always kind of a fun intro. But I have that in there. I have little things in there. And we all have things that are cool or neat, or went to school here or whatever, that people can relate to, that they'll enjoy. So you put that in there. And then, yes, the process is all in there. I find that it really does, I'd say 75% of the time, makes a difference. It's also professional. Hey, did every other agent walking in their door, because it's getting competitive out there, guys. Did every other agent walk in their door do that? Well, you did. Okay. That is kind of nice. Now they get to know you a little bit more before you've walked in the door, where they don't know that other agent as well. So I think that is really important. I will absolutely keep doing it and certainly recommend people do it.
Love that. So just to recap, we're doing a pre-call, we're doing our homework, and then we're getting some of our assets in front of them early so they can be equally comfortable with us.
Certainly.
Because sometimes it can be weird if we know them real well.
Sure.
And we're walking through their house and they don't feel like they know us.
Yeah.
Right.
And people are people. We meet people. Some people are super engaging when you're in their house. Some people are really shy, and personalities just vary so much, which also takes your listing appointment in different directions.
Yep.
If they have a little bit of your background up front, it tends to put them at ease and gives them a little bit more comfort.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about, you made it through the presentation, it comes time to price, or you start getting some objections, right? What do you, you're talking about more competition. So how often is that coming up? Which, hey, we're interviewing other brokers, etc. What are you hearing out there? Where's the pushback? Where's the thing that you're like, all right, I got to beef up this?
Me personally, and I'm not going to call it objections, but we all know our weaknesses, our strengths and our weaknesses.
Sure.
My weakness is technology. So I have to get really good at just being dangerous enough to discuss it and then express, if someone really indulges into it, that look, I have people smarter than myself handling a lot of that. Okay. But then I get all the calls to this, to that. Okay. From the standpoint of objections, other than the party that just isn't ready to list with you that moment, they have other people to talk to, or whatever the case is, or just need to vacillate and think about it, I don't feel and see a lot of objections.
Okay.
I think if you run your, that's not true. I'll take that back. Sometimes you can wrestle a little bit with price point. Okay. And that's why I've shifted the way I do things with that to a range. Okay. Because what you don't want to do in this market, I felt last year, is lose a listing because of your price recommendation. You don't want to lose a listing. They are so valuable in this market. My gosh, guys, you've seen your buyers are going crazy because, oh my gosh, I called you on that house and it's already gone, so you want those listings. Okay, so don't lose one for pricing unless it is a ludicrous, thing. And then you got to kind of step in and say, listen, and then you got to try to talk them down, which I've done, and you'll all, you can all do that. So those are really the only objections. But I think that's within the process of your preparation and just your ability to continue to, engage them and keep them understanding what's most important. And if they overprice something, it's not going to sell. Okay. And sometimes you have to have that tough conversation. I'll always try to close at the end. Like, hey, you know what? I feel so comfortable. I'd love an opportunity to work with you guys. How do you feel? Are you comfortable? You feel like you'd be comfortable working with me? Sure, Larry. Yeah. Then let's get started. And boom, I want to get it right there. Yeah. I would say 75% of the time, if they're going to go with, no, that's not. I'd say 60% of the time, if they're going to go with you, they'll do that right there. 40%, they're not going to sign right then. You still may very well, and if you did a great job, are going to get the listing, but I try to close it there if I'm able. If I'm not, boy, I'm going to do follow-up correspondence. Make sure they know you're top of mind. Make sure they know that you really want to help them and continue to correspond until they decide to make their decision.
Yeah, so I think that's a huge number, right? Everything that we teach, if you've done bold, I'm sure in productivity coaching it comes up that you always want to go for the close. You want to ask people to sign today. But you're saying 40% of your listings are coming through follow-up. And so let's just do a quick aside, because you're probably winning out against people you're competing with for listings based on strong follow-up. So what's that, what's that strategy? Is it the next day, 3 days, 10 days?
I'm going to send them an email that day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with you. I really enjoyed it. I love your house, whatever I may say, but I would certainly love the opportunity to work with you. Again, and I'll maybe put my bullet point in, no one's going to outwork or compete harder on your behalf than I will. And I believe that. I wouldn't say it if I didn't, but I put that in there again, just a little blurb, not a huge paragraph. So that's that. Sometimes they'll respond to that. Sometimes they'll respond to that quick and say, you know what, we thought about it. Larry, let's get started. Give us a call. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
If there's no response to that, I'm going to give a call within probably 48 to 72 hours, unless they specifically said, we need this much time, or we're going out of town, or whatever the case is. And if they're going out of town or there's a longer time, I'm dripping on them every 3 to 4 days. That's me. Now, I didn't read that anywhere. I don't know if that's actually the right way to do it, but that's how I do it, because you want to stay top of mind. And look, the world's a fast moving place. And yes, selling their house is a priority, but they got other things going on. I want them to remember, you're important to me. I want to list your house and I'm the best person for the job.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know what the data says on what's the best follow-up strategy, but here's the thing we know about systems. The best one is the one you're willing to follow.
There you go.
So if you're willing to, do it every 3 to 4 days and it's working, keep doing it. If you're out there, some folks are going to text, email, call every day. Great. That's the one that works for you and you can do it. All right. So let's bring this home. As you mentioned, you've been in the industry for a little over 2 decades. You've been really focused on the sales, and we'll call it the retail side of things, for the last 5 or 6 years. Coming through, what are your must-dos to win the listing, right? What are the things you're saying, hey, if you don't do anything else, if you've never listed a home before, do these 5 things, and you probably put yourself in a pretty good position to do it.
I would say start by putting together your process, okay? Because you want to get really comfortable in front of someone. The only way you can do that is get to the bare bones, okay? So for me, I would be uncomfortable if I didn't send that preemptive listing package. So it's going to start with that. It starts with the phone call, then that email. Those are critical, okay? Preparation, critical, okay? Comfort, navigating the process will come. Some of us are more comfortable in that situation than others. But if you are prepared going in, your level of confidence is going to be much higher. Confidence is important. Rapport building is important. So if you follow your process, make your connection, okay? Stay on point with how you handle things so that you're so comfortable with it that you typically will derive the results you want, okay? As far as an absolute must do this, must do that, I would just say follow the process and get comfortable with it. That is ever changing, okay? So you're always going to be evolving with that, okay? But stay on top of that. I may do, if I've got a minute or two, I may do like a little mental talk shop in my head by myself in my office. I have to close the door now because my wife would come in and film me and then text, send it to the kids like, here, your dad's talking to yourself with his phone. But my point is, be prepared, make it top of mind, because you want to be really good at handling listings, really, really good. And if you have a process, if you're continually, sharpening your tools with it, getting more comfortable with it, that's what I believe will ultimately help in your success in securing those listings.
Yeah, I think that it's such a solid point, because not that anybody would ever do this, not that any of our agents ever do this, but with, sometimes with buyers, you can wing it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because it's like, well, do you like the house?
Yep.
And if they're familiar with the neighborhood, maybe more familiar than you are. I mean, if they like it, they go, you're under contract, right?
Sure,
but with the listing, it's a different side of the coin. Having that process, even if I think your point is a strong one, go on more listing appointments and you'll get more comfortable in listing appointments. And if you have a process, it's not really about what's happening in the space between, that I have to get from the tour to the kitchen table, from the kitchen table to the close.
That's right.
From the close to the follow-up. And if I do all those things, I'm probably going to list a few houses.
Yeah, and you're going to get comfortable with the process. When we find ourselves comfortable in a situation, we tend to get better at it, okay? If it's important to us and we're working hard, we get better at it. So stick with your process, but also understand that things are not always going to go as they seem. But if you remember, hey, my next point is this, you can stay in the moment, enjoy their conversation, talk a little bit, but then get back on your points, okay? And if you don't have that script or those bullet points, I think it's very difficult to do that. To Mike's point, you can wing a buyer. I've winged listing appointments before, okay, to a degree. But at the end of the day, I didn't have the same comfort, the same confidence as I did when I walked in. And I've done a lot of them. And I still do this every single time because it makes me most comfortable. And listen, you're asking someone to select you to help them sell arguably the biggest asset they have. Boy, that's a big ask, okay? So you got to get real comfortable with knowing and believing you're the best person for the job. That will come across in your preparation, in your communication, in your comfort level with them, and hopefully that will, lead you to converting these listing appointments.
That's huge. That's huge. Well, Larry, thank you so much. A ton of great content today. If you enjoyed this, you liked hearing from Larry, he's going to be a part of our summer masterminds on our listing panel. So we gave him the softballs today in terms of questions, but we're going to bring the heat in July. So be there. Larry will be up on the big stage with a couple other folks talking about taking more listings. And I promise you, the market's going to be different in the next 30 days. So there will be, I'm sure we'll have some new lessons learned.
A lot of changes.
A lot of changes. Yeah. So Larry, thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you. Glad you could come in for this.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you to the whole team for being here today. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. Debbie Garson's going to take us through maximizing your listing. So you got one. Now what? Awesome stuff. All right. Have a good day, gang. We'll see you next week.